I'll sometimes use an instrumental like this to warm up for another track or a commission that I'm working on. Sometimes I think of sample rating as a separate thing to making music. It just takes that fandom to another level, taking the essence of the song, making it your own, turning it into something else. Sometimes it's a mental health exercise. I feel like it's like practicing mindfulness. I was listening to a podcast the other day on neuroscience and how making music is one of the times when you're using the most parts of your brain at once. So sometimes making a song like this is purely an exercise. It's like going to the gym, like stretching or doing yoga. One of the things I love about making a beat like this creatively is that it sets you those boundaries. What it does, it kind of reminds me of one of my idols, Jack White, in the White Stripes days before he had like a 12-man band. I'd hear him talk a lot about the rules that he made up, they didn't have to do. They make up these rules for when they were creating music for the White Stripes, so they could only ever have those two instruments. That they had to wear red, black and white, that the songs had to have this structure, that element, and you couldn't go any further with it. Sometimes the hardest part with any art is the blank canvas itself. For me, I see it often that a blank canvas, a blank page is a good deterrent for any artist. People sit staring at it, waiting for perfection to come, waiting for a fully formed idea to happen. Like it should already, like the thing should already exist and you're just guiding it there. The problem with that approach is that so much work, so much art doesn't happen because of that deterrent. Because people just want the lose sight of the fact that it's about the creating. You've got to make the mistakes and then you've got to put them out there. And one thing that I'm finding is the more that I put it out there, it's usually these little errors, the things that I've done purely as an exercise to explore, just for creating for the sake of creating. Those are the bits that people like. So the thing that works for me when I'm working on a track like this, there are no obligations to it. This wasn't commissioned, this is a warm-up exercise. But what it does is it removes the kind of obstacle of that blank canvas, that blank page. For whatever reason, my brain clung onto this particular part of the bass line, these other elements of the song. With some tinkering, some playing around, I turned it into something else. And now that's become a whole new thing that's stuck in my head. It got rid of the blank canvas, now I'm working with these elements. And then it becomes a whole other task, it becomes about seeing that through. So then that's the other rule, to just create, to just keep moving. I saw a quote the other day when I was doom scrolling. I think it was the actor Ian McKellen, the guy who plays Gandalf. And he was talking about how how being an artist is in the action of creating. It's not in the final outcome. If you're a poet, you should write poems, even if it's a line at a time, over a whole week, a whole month. You should just burn that poem when you're done. Because being an artist and what you as a human get out of creating is all in the journey of making it. There are a million ways to make a song good, and equally to fuck it up. As I say, I treat it more like an exercise in mindfulness, to keep that one true image in mind and see it through. So what you're watching here sounds a little bit like getting a migraine. You're just clicking it back to the start over and over and making tiny adjustments. And from afar, it might sound like the song isn't actually changing that much. I've edited this down from over 3 hours, I think it was. I was kind of making tiny adjustments, but the vision stays the same. Until by the end of the 3 hours, it's turned the track into something entirely else that only existed in my head. There's freedom in making music like this. There was no reason to do it, no reason to post it, to share it. I used to do this a lot and I didn't share it. I'd just stay all in a hard drive on my laptop. And then one day that hard drive corrupted and crashed and I lost about a few years of music. And while at the same time I found that incredibly liberating, that I'd done it purely for me, it also seemed a shame to keep it to myself. So that's when I started posting stuff on SoundCloud and collaborating. And that's when it turned more into working on hip hop. Because of the community, the collaborations. It all starts with that sample. And then seeing through that vision out here in the hills in Northern England. And then what I love is the next bit where I send it off into the ether of the internet. And some other artist, someone I'll probably never meet ever, who lives on the other side of the world, has a completely different life. We have like very little in common, except this one thing that started with a sample. And that was my obsession for a good half a day, obsessing over this vision, see it through like it's the most important thing in the world. And then it's done, it's gone. It's like some mind worm that you finally let wriggle free, and it's like it never happened. But for those 3 hours I was controlling time, and all my thoughts were on this one thing. And then you send it off, and then a few days later, some other underground artists, they spotted something in it, and then they turn it into something else entirely that you, all of that obsessive time spent on it, didn't even see was possible. Anyway, what I'm doing here is just try to take that step further because of the times, because so many of these collaborations are happening remotely or by message. It gives those people, my thought on one level is you get to see my creative process, maybe see the mistakes I made. On another level, on this track, it held me accountable to mistakes. I like the fingerprints, the handwriting of an artist on a track. I'm not overly into polished stuff. It's one of the things I like about making lo-fi music. But then again, yeah, there are the times when I click publish and think, that could have been great if I'd have just polished it. I just mixed those two bass lines together that little bit better. So on one level, what I'd like this to do is give that insight to my process, to how the track comes about. On another level, I'm thinking of the artists who might collaborate and record over this track, that maybe they'll see my intention with it, and that'll help give them a starting point for what they want to do. And on another level, maybe it's a little bit like a message in a bottle. And I figure I'll just record this, put myself out there, and see what comes back. And if it's nothing I can use, I'll just delete this video and go back to making music.